Hello, my name is Aaron, and today I'm going to be ranking every roller coaster at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. So, for the record, I have only visited Busch Gardens, Virginia one time, and to the naysayers out there who think that that's not enough time to warrant a review or a ranking of the coasters in a park, I will say that most people review movies after only watching them one time. So I think it's perfectly valid to do something like this. What I'm going to be doing is I'll be looking at the overall ride experience as well as the theme, which is just kind of the ambience of the ride itself. And I'll be ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. So with that, let's go ahead and start with number 7. So my least favorite coaster in the park, well, that would have to be the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster is an old aero looper, so it's definitely got some miles on it. It's not very smooth. It's set to the theme of the Loch Ness Monster, which is great. It's got a very nice kind of winding layout, goes through the woods and goes over the river a few times. And there's also a tunnel at the end that was a lot longer than I expected it to be. It just goes on and on and on. But overall, not really an enjoyable experience for me because just how old and rough it is. Now, maybe if I'd ridden this a little bit earlier in the day, it was the last ride I rode on the visit. So maybe if I'd ridden it a bit earlier and not been so just tired and shaken up from the rest of the day, I would have enjoyed it more. But as it stands, from this experience, it's at the bottom of my list. Again, not a terrible coaster. I don't really think any coaster here is terrible, but it definitely wasn't really my favorite, and I wouldn't ride it more than once. All right, so my next coaster is Alpengeist. And so Alpengeist is a suspended roller coaster. So think Silver Bullet at Knott's or Batman at a Six Flags park. And it's a decent ride, but again, I found this one to be fairly rough. Not necessarily just overall, but specifically the transitions between the elements. This is a looping, twisting coaster. There's a cobra roll, a cobra roll, and several other elements. And I just found the transitions between the elements to be really shaky, and the cars really rattled around a lot. But as far as theme is concerned, this coaster has a great theme. So it's Alpengeist, which is essentially just a mountain ghost that's tearing through a village. So you get to do that a lot on the ride. There's a lot of near miss elements where it looks like you're about to hit a house or about to hit some rocks. And so you fly in and out really quick through all these trees and like scenic elements, and that's really neat. I did ride this one twice, but it just wasn't super smooth, especially compared to other rides of this type. And so for that reason, it's near the bottom of the list. Again, I don't think any coaster really at this park is terrible. It's just this one didn't really thrill me all that much. And so with that, let's go ahead and move on to number 5. All right, so number 5. Number 5, I have to give it to Invader. So Invader is more of a family style wooden coaster. So it's not really that tall. It's not very extreme. It doesn't go upside down. It's just your pretty typical up and down roller coaster. Like when you think roller coaster, this is probably what most people think in their minds. The theme is Viking related, so you're invading, and it's a good coaster. It's newer, it's smooth, and it's got just some enjoyable fun. And because it was smooth and newer, I just enjoyed it a bit more than the previous ones on the list. But since it isn't really extreme or crazy or anything, it's just kind of in the middle of the pack. And so with that, let's go ahead and move on to number 4. So the number 4 spot, I'm going to have to give that to Tempesto. So Tempesto's very loosely themed to a daredevil, and the theme is pretty loose. And this is a cloned ride. So what that means is that there's several others that exist out there that are identical. So Electric Eel at SeaWorld, it's the same exact ride. And I hadn't ridden one of these. It's a Premier Skyrocket 2, if anyone cares. But I actually enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I would. It launches you back and forth a few times before finally sending you through the whole, up and around the whole loop. And it was actually enjoyable. I typically don't like rides that go back and forth a lot, or rides that spin, but I liked this one. And even though it is a clone, it's still a good ride. The one thing I didn't like about it were the restraints. They call them comfort collars, but they were actually really bulky and uncomfortable, and like I kept hitting my head against them. So that was the only minor nitpick about this one, but overall, just a good, fun little coaster. And with that, let's go ahead and look at number 3. So number 3, and this may be a controversial pick, is Apollo's Chariot. So Apollo's Chariot is a hypercoaster. So again, it's kind of your standard up and down, but the thing that makes this one stand out is the fact that it's over 200 feet. So it's very tall, it's got an incredible drop. You get a really nice view above the tree line for a little bit going up the chain lift. And I liked it, but it didn't really wow me. So it was enjoyable, it was smooth, but again, it just didn't really wow me. So again, it's still number 3 on my list here. I did enjoy it, and we rode it a few times, but it just kind of felt like something was missing. Maybe it just was a little bit short, or maybe it could have used like another element or two, but it was good, just not amazing. Now, I would kind of compare this to like Superman at Six Flags New England. They're both about the same height, but I think I enjoy Superman a bit more. But again, they're both good. I just kind of felt like Apollo's Chariot was lacking a bit. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to number 2. So there's only 2 left here, so I guess you're going to know the answer to number 1 after I say this one. But number 2 is Griffin. Now, Griffin is a drop coaster, so it brings you up and then lets you kind of hang over the edge, and then you just drop at a 90-degree angle just down to the ground. And I enjoyed this one. It is a bit on the short side. It's not very long. There's only like 2 drops and just a couple Immelmans. Not a super complex or lengthy ride, but I enjoyed it. The theme is also not very there. It's themed to a griffin, obviously, but you don't really get any of that. I don't think the audio is working, but I did enjoy it, and we rode it several times. When we went there weren't really any lines. So most rides were just a walk up to the station essentially. And I did really enjoy Griffon. Now, maybe I'm a bit biased because this is the first drop coaster that I've ridden. I haven't gone on any other ones. There aren't really many on the West Coast where I've lived most of my life. I know SeaWorld is putting Emperor in San Diego, but other than that, there aren't really any on. Magic Mountain doesn't have one, so I hadn't been on a drop coaster before, and I really did enjoy Griffon. So obviously we know what's number one is, but let's go ahead and talk about it then. So number one is obviously the last one that I haven't named, and it's Verbolten. Verbolten is great because not only is it a fantastic ride experience, it also has a really great theme. Now, Busch Gardens generally does a good job with its theming. Some of them, like Griffon, less so, but Verbolten goes all out. In the lines, you go through like this whole lab where the Germans were developing kind of biological weapons of sort or something supernatural, and they're experimenting on plants. And so the theme is that you are trying to escape from this enchanted forest, essentially, that's been overrun by these crazy science plants that have evolved to be aggressive and crush cars and all of that. So you're escaping from that, and it's a really well done theme. Now, for me, when a roller coaster is poorly themed, it doesn't really detract from the experience. But when a roller coaster is well themed, it really adds value to that ride. So basically, if you theme it really well, it'll help. But if you don't theme it at all, it doesn't necessarily hurt it. So in this case, it's very well themed, and so that helps it a lot in my eyes. And the ride is really great as well. It's not really that extreme. The drops aren't really all that crazy, but it's very unique. That's a bit redundant, very unique. It's unique. You get some indoor sections that are very reminiscent of Space Mountain, just less janky. And you get a drop section, which if you're not prepared for, will probably catch you off guard. And then you get some outdoors, going just through the woods, and there's a nice drop at the end towards the river. So just a really good ride overall. It keeps a good pace. It has several launches, and just a really great ride overall. So it's definitely my number one at Busch Gardens. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. Alright, so we made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave your ranking in the comments if you've been there, or if you haven't, maybe just list one of your favorite coasters at your home park. Again, my name is Aaron. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you again in another one. Take care.